Good morning. It is Monday, May 26th. This is a special Memorial Day episode of Marlins Monday. My name is Eric Wiedeke. As always, you can follow me on X/Twitter at Eric Wiedeke. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe here at the 5 Reasons Sports YouTube channel. It does help out a lot of what the network does, covering the Panthers on their playoff run, covering the Heat as the draft approaches, covering the Dolphins as training camp is set to open up in about 6-7 weeks now, and then also covering the Marlins, of course, Inter Miami, the Hurricanes, anything South Florida, you name it. We've got it over here at the 5 Reasons Sports Network. But I want to get into it right away here. The Marlins 3-3 last week. They lose a series to Chicago at home, one that really could have gone the other way here. The last game, Chicago played some fantastic infield defense, took a couple runs off the board, and what could have been the difference in a one-run game. But a 3-3 week nonetheless for the Marlins as they take 2 out of 3 against the Angels in LA. Another game, another series that, they lose game one. I'm not going to harp on it. It's not what this episode is about. But, once again, I think the Marlins at this point, before they ramp Sandy up to, hey, we want you to pitch into the 6th, 7th inning of games, why don't you just stop him at 5 for now? Once he gets through 5 and he gets comfortable and he settles in that way, at that point, yeah, okay, then you can give him more. But right now, I would stop him at 5 innings. And this whole idea that he's a horse and he can go. I just think it's too much, too fast for him right now, coming off the injury, as I've said before. But one pitcher who has been pitching really well for the Marlins of late is one Edward Cabrera. Cabrera continued that into yesterday's ballgame, going 5 2/3 innings, allowing 3 hits, 2 walks, striking out 10, and no earned runs, as the Marlins ended up beating the Angels 3-0. Cabrera, throughout the month of May, has really shown off vastly improved control. His ERA in May is down to 2.53 over 21 in the 3rd innings pitched. He struck out 23 batters and walked only 5. He's always been a guy that you kept telling yourself, if he puts it together, this is going to be a good pitcher. He was always the if guy. If he doesn't walk so many batters, if he doesn't have the blisters, if he could just locate his pitches. And it seems like right now, you're kind of in a place with him where you're getting a glimpse of what it would look like, if he were to really turn the corner. Now, granted, it's going to take more than 1 month, I think, to change, the minds of not only the fan base, but probably the organization in terms of what, Edward Cabrera is. Because he's had runs of 4 or 5 starts in a row where he looks good. And then the problem is, it's a consistency issue with him. Is this who he's going to be moving forward? Because if it is, then maybe you can make a case that long-term there's a spot for him in this rotation. But if there is, from the organizational side, or from the organization side of things, if there's any kind of skepticism that this is going to last, I think Cabrera is the type of player that could net you quite a bit out on the trade market, just because of the stuff that he has and the potential that he still has. And he still does have great potential as a starting pitcher, as I think he's been showing of late. But teams would definitely pay up for an Edward Cabrera with what he can bring to a starting rotation. And if you're in any way apprehensive or skeptical that this is going to continue, granted, there's still quite a bit of time between now and the deadline, 2 whole months. If he pitches to, a 250 ERA for the next 2 months, and I think that kind of changes the calculations here in terms of, number one, what you'd even be willing to trade him for, and then number two, whether you're willing to trade him or not, just overall. And it's really kind of been in line with the theme of the non-Sandy starters in terms of how they've been pitching of late. Max Meyer had that rough patch to start in the month of May. He's kind of settled in a little bit over his last 2 starts, had a really good outing against Chicago, allowing 1 run over 6 innings. Cal Quantrill very quietly in his month of May is pitched with 3.06 ERA across 17 2/3 innings. And Ryan Weathers, through his first 2 starts, he's gone 5 innings, 1 earned run in each of those starts as well. So the Marlins starting to hit, maybe a little bit of their stride as far as the starting pitching goes, and how they've been, the performances that they've been getting. It's been really rough on the starting pitching side of things for the most part this season, but it seems like that may be turning a corner, and could even do so more if or when, Sandy starts to really come around in the rotation. Another interesting note that came this week was, I'm not sure exactly when it was, but on one of the pregame shows this week, Marlins insider Craig Mish was on, and he was talking about Matt Mervis and essentially, what the organization's plans are for him right now, considering his struggles. And, I don't want to read into it too much, but essentially what I took away was he said Matt Mervis kind of has until the end of May to get these struggles sorted out. And at this point, it hasn't necessarily happened yet. Matt Mervis this year down to hitting 178. And it's been a really precipitous fall, especially when you consider on April 17th, he was hitting 262 with a 1010 OPS. Since that point, in 27 games, he's been 132, 224 on base, 224 slugging, 448 OPS, and he struck out 31 times over his 76 at-bats in that time. So Mervis right now, he's on the hot seat. He really was impactful for you through the first half of April or so. But pitchers have made adjustments to him, and Mervis has been unable to counter the counter to this point. And one of the names that was mentioned was Troy Johnston as a potential replacement. Johnston, bit of a journeyman for the Marlins, 27-year-old at AAA Jacksonville, career 284 batter, 830 OPS in the minors. He's raked, or he's hit really well at pretty much every level to this point. His lowest OPS in his minor league career being 762 over a full season. This year, or over in that same span since April 17th at Jacksonville, he's been hitting 278 with a 352 on base and a 474 slugging percentage, good for an 826 OPS. And he's not lighting the world on fire in Jacksonville, but that's actually, a line like that is a really good encapsulation of a guy like Troy Johnston, I think. A guy that's really a solid bat in just about all areas, doesn't strike out a lot, doesn't hit for a ton of power, maybe 15 to 20 home run power. Surprisingly good on the bases, has 15 steals at Jacksonville this season. Plays both of the corner outfield spots, so he gives you a little bit more positional versatility than a guy like Mervis does. In addition to playing first base, another left-handed bat. Johnston's a guy that I think fans have been clamoring for a while over the last few years, because he's always produced just about at every level that he's been at. And if he does get the call for Mervis, it'll be one that is very well deserved. But we will see how that ends up playing out. As there's still a few games remaining here in the month of May. A couple series starting tonight in San Diego, and then at home, a 3-game set versus the Giants. And then you've got Dane Myers and Xavier Edwards, who also seem to be drawing very close to their return. Dane Myers was on social media posting photos of the Jumbo Shrimp dugout or clubhouse up in Jacksonville. So it seems to be that he's getting ready to start off with a rehab assignment here shortly for his back that he tweaked maybe about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago now. And Xavier Edwards never left the team. He was with the team in LA, still with the team tonight in San Diego. I wouldn't be surprised to see him activated as early as tonight for the Marlins. And the interesting thing with Edwards now is I think when he comes back, he's not coming back to be the shortstop. I think when he comes back, he's coming back to play second base. And I'm interested to see how that will affect maybe his offense. Because I think that, with a guy like Edwards, where you've got so much talk about his defense and does he have the arm to play shortstop? Can he do it? I think with a guy like that, it gets into his head a little bit. And I think just taking those questions away from him, allowing him to play a position that he's more comfortable at defensively, to where he can really just focus on, getting things right in the batter's box at the plate, and making himself the best leadoff hitter that he can possibly be for this team. Because if you do add an Xavier Edwards who's closer to what he was last year, and you do get back a Dane Myers who's been really good this season, and you add it to Kyle Stowers and Liam Hicks and Augustine Ramirez and Connor Norby, who's really come on of late, then you've got the outlines of a pretty solid offense between those guys. If you can just get them going kind of at the same time and producing on a consistent level in the same lineup. And they're going to have an opportunity to do so as, to finish out May. It's at San Diego, home versus San Francisco. 2 pretty tough series. Again, I think the Marlins are really just going to be hoping that they can end up going 500 in that time span. But then beyond that, it's the Rockies, it's the Rays, it's the Pirates, and it's the Nationals. 4 series against those teams, 12 games. If the Marlins can keep themselves within double-digit games or single-digit games under 500 at the start of that Rocky series, then I think they have to feel pretty good about, at least their chances of, staying respectable here heading into June. And we'll see how things play out with a guy like Yuri Perez in his return. You've still got Declan Cronin, who's been making rehab assignments in Jupiter of late. Andrew Nardi, not sure where he's going to be, in the next week or two. But he seems to be kind of around the corner. And they're going to be added to a bullpen that's just been unbelievable this season. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens there. Also very interesting to see what happens this upcoming week. And I will see you guys next week for another episode of Marlins Monday. Thank you guys so much for watching. Again, do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe, as it does help the channel grow. And I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.